Hey guys, and welcome to the very first podcast of the MuscleHack show. I'm Mark McManus, MuscleHack.com. And you know what a lot of first podcasts are like. It's just welcome to the show, a lot of fluff, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to do that. I want to get straight into a topic that's going to be very, very valuable for you. Something that's going to improve your gains right from your very next session in the gym. And it's this. What does it actually take to build muscle? What is it your job to do when you go into the gym? What is it you're actually trying to accomplish? Is it to try and lift the heaviest loads? Is it to try and impress people? Is it about your ego? It's not about any of that. The whole business of building muscle can be summarized in two words: muscle stimulation. Your job literally is to recruit the maximum number of muscle fibers and then stimulate those muscle fibers to grow. That's it. That's the whole job. So the question then becomes, okay, well, how do we do this? And the first thing I want to tell you is to forget about the absolute numbers. Forget about how heavy the load is compared to somebody else in the gym. It doesn't matter. So absolute numbers, what do I mean by that? I mean, if you're benching, let's just say you're benching, just 70 kilos or something. There's someone else in the gym though, and he's benching 120 kilos. They're the absolute numbers. Does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. The only thing that matters is the relative numbers. Your numbers relative to what you lifted 3 months ago, 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. Those numbers need to be increasing. But the absolute numbers don't matter. And actually, we all know this because you go to the gym and you can see a guy who maybe isn't benching very much. His lifts are just not very impressive, but he's got like awesome pecs, muscular defined pectorals. Yet there's another guy who's benching 150 kilos or something, and his chest is just not that impressive. So we all know this on some level. We can see it. It's not the absolute numbers that matter. It's only your numbers relative to what you used to lift. In every single lift, doesn't matter if it's squats or deadlifts, you have to forget about what the other guy's deadlifting. Forget about what the other guy's benching. Forget about what the other guy's barbell curling. It does not matter. It's the first thing. Forget about those numbers. Only pay attention to your relative numbers. Okay, so I said the whole job was recruiting and stimulating muscle fibers to grow. So, okay, how do we do this? The first thing you have to do is to stop dropping the load on the negative. Let's say you're doing a set of barbell curls, and you see guys in the gym do this all the time. They lift, they're positive, the lifting is actually pretty good, and then they just drop the bar back to the starting position, then do another rep. So the negative is basically non-existent. They're not really doing their negatives. When you do that, you can't possibly recruit all the muscle fibers. It's impossible. What you need to do, and I want this to become your new mantra, you have to burn this into your mind and keep it there as a mantra. Your new mantra when you're lifting is lower under full muscular control. Every single rep, every single set, every single exercise, lower under full muscular control. It's only when you do this that you can possibly recruit all the muscle fibers and then stimulate those muscle fibers to grow. I'm not advising you that you need to count, like you need to count in your head 1 second up, 2 seconds down. All I want you to do is to focus on using the intended muscle, whether it's a biceps or triceps, to lower the weight. That muscle has to lower it, not gravity. So again, your mantra is lower under full muscular control. And that brings in the next tip. When you do that, you're actually taking tension off the muscle. And something that I have really focused on the last year, 2 years of my own training is the principle of constant tension. If you want maximum stimulation, you have to keep tension on the intended muscle throughout the whole set, from rep 1 right up to rep whatever, 10, 12, whatever. Keep tension on the muscle. Tension, constant tension just means if you're doing a set of barbell curls that the bicep is feeling that load, feeling that stimulation from the beginning of the set right to the very end with no break, so that you keep the tension on the intended muscle the whole of the set. That's really going to cause muscle stimulation. It's going to stimulate that muscle to grow. And the last point that I really want to hammer home is to bring each set to a point of muscular failure. Now, a lot of you guys, you follow my work, you'll see that recently I wrote a blog post on C.T. Fletcher. His whole argument that, overtraining is a myth, it doesn't really exist, it's a fairy tale, whatever. I completely disagree, and I set out my reasons for disagreeing with him, but there is something he says that I really agree with. He says, your set ain't over till you can't do no more. And it's totally true. Your set is not over till you can't lift anymore. That's the point of failure. In THT training, I advise people to go to a point of positive muscular failure, which means that you can't do the lifting portion of the exercise anymore. And there's a whole host of reasons why you should train to failure. I could talk for hours on failure alone. You need to push your body to the very edge of its current capacity if you want your body to adapt and grow. It maximizes metabolic stress. It maximizes recruitment of those fast twitch type 2B muscle fibers. Those are the ones that are predominantly responsible for actual growth. It maximizes muscle damage, which we know correlates positively with protein synthesis levels. There's just a whole host of reasons why you should take each set to a point of positive failure. So please do not listen to these knuckleheads on YouTube and elsewhere that said, you don't need to train to failure. You should train to failure, unless you have these awesome bodybuilding genetics, which the vast majority of us don't have. So take each set to the point where you just can't do anymore, and record the weight and record the number of reps that you got. So I want to do a quick recap of everything we've discussed here. I said that the point of this podcast was to talk about what it actually takes to build muscle. And the first thing I told you to do was to forget about the absolute numbers. Forget about what the other guy is lifting, because the only thing that matters is the relative numbers, relative to what you lifted 1 month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 1 year ago. What the other guy's lifting is none of your business, and what you're lifting is none of his business. The only person you're trying to beat in the gym is yourself. Second point, stop dropping the load on your negatives. Perform all negatives under full muscular control. Third point, constant tension. Keep constant tension on the intended muscle throughout the whole entire set until point 4, you reach a point of muscular failure. You take each set to the point where you just can't do anymore. So that's the whole job. That is your job as someone who wants to build muscle. That's what you're going to the gym to do. And if you start training like this, I can promise you one thing. You're going to feel the difference. You'll feel it during your workout. You're actually going to feel the difference of recruiting and stimulating more muscle fibers. But you'll also feel it the next day and the day after, because you'll experience a lot more soreness, a lot more DOMS, DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. But, soreness is okay because you've actually stimulated growth, which is why you went to the gym in the first place. So, guys, there's going to be notes for every show. For every podcast, there will be show notes. If you want the notes for this show, go to musclehack.com/podcast-001. And all podcasts in the future are going to be like this. It'll be musclehack.com/podcast-002, 003, and so on. So if you want the show notes, which are going to be just a brief summary of everything that was discussed, or you can't understand my Irish accent, you can go to the site and read the show notes instead. And in future podcasts, it's not going to be just me. I'm going to have guys on, guests to interview, and I've already got a couple of very exciting guests coming on the show. And I also want to say, if you need a program, you need a workout that encapsulates everything I've talked about, that will also tell you the correct rep ranges to work in, the correct frequency, the correct volume to use, what exercises to use. Just go to MuscleHack.com and download Targeted Hypertrophy Training, THT Training. It's a training program I created specifically for hypertrophy, for growth, to stimulate maximal growth. Okay, so this has been a fun experience, the very first podcast. Guys, if you're listening to me not on the blog, somewhere else like YouTube or iTunes or something, please do subscribe to this show. There's going to be some awesome tips coming up in the future, some awesome interviews and stuff. So please do subscribe. And as always, my friends, train with intensity.